Okay, in this video we are going to learn how to add some navigation to Animate CC. This will be really handy for you guys when you're doing your kids interface, as you'll be able to navigate from one page or one thing to another throughout your kids interface. So we start off with a new action script, and there's our stage. Now the first thing I need to do is create a button. So I'm going to be really crafty and I'm actually going to draw my button. My drawing is really bad, as you can see. I'm just going to create a splodge. There's my splodge. I want to fill the colour the same, and there's my first button. Now what we need to do to make this a button is we need to turn it into a symbol first. So we select the whole thing, right click, and convert to symbol. It's going to ask us to name our symbol. We're going to name our symbol home button. Excuse me, so we know this is the home button. We also need to make sure that button is selected, not movie clip or graphic, because we're making this into a button. And then click OK. So we know it's turned into a symbol because we can see that little circle in the middle, and we've got a square around our shape. Oh, excuse me. So next thing we need to do is double click on that, and you'll see that because we've created it as a button, we are given the up, over and down state. We need to insert keyframes into over and down. We're not actually going to use the hit in this example. That's something I can explain to you at a later date. So currently it's the same color for everything. Sorry, that needs to be a keyframe. So you'll know it's a keyframe by the little round circle in there. So up, over and down, they're all exactly the same at the moment. I want to change the color so that when someone hovers over my button, they know they've hovered over it. So I'm going to change it to scary green when they hover over it. And when they press down on it, I'm going to change it to, when they press down on it, I'm going to change it to pink colour. So up, over, down. Those are the different states of our button. Now we need some text on our button so people know what it is, because currently it's just a blue splodge. I want my text to be white so it can be seen. 15 points is big enough, and I've chosen a font that is nice and easy to see. There's lots of font here to choose from. I do suggest that you keep your font uniform throughout your site. This makes it a lot more aesthetically pleasing, which means it's better to look at. So I'm going to put the label text in here, or put the label home in here, sorry. I need to click on my home button and make sure it's sitting nice and neat in there. Okay, I'm happy with that. So I've now put that in home. So it'll say home on the up button, over and down. Still don't have that text on there. So I need to select my text, not my whole shape. Select my text, right click and copy. And then I go to over and I'm going to right click, paste in place, and it'll paste it in exactly the same place as it is on the first button. Do the same with the down, paste in place. Now we can see each and every button, although they're different colours, still has that home text on there, so they know what that button is. So now I'm going to test that, Control Enter, and we can see when I hover over my button, it changes colour. When I click on my button, it changes to the pink. So we can see that that worked. So now double click on your stage and you'll go back to the normal timeline. Now I'm going to have 20 frames in my this little animation. So I'm going to insert a keyframe at 20. I'm going to insert another keyframe at 10. This second keyframe, so this is where my page 2 is, and this is where my page 1 is. Now we need to insert another button for page 2. So create a layer. And we're going, sorry, we should have called that home, that layer. And we'll call this layer page 2. Oh, excuse me. So in my page 2 layer, I'm going to draw another scary button. So pick my drawing tool and we'll draw another scary shape, just a cloud type of thing. And I'm going to fill that again with the blue. So there's my next button. Again, we need to convert that to a symbol. So right click, convert to symbol. We want to call this one page 2. And again, make sure that is a button. So that's now a button symbol. Again, double click, and we've got the up, over, and down states. So again, all exactly the same. We need to change those. So insert keyframe and insert keyframe. Go back to our over. We're going to make that the scary green again because we're trying to keep things uniform. This way, when people are navigating our site, whenever they see that green colour, they know that that is signifying that they are hovering over the button. Whenever they see the pink colour, that signifies that they have pressed down on the button. Go back to our first one again. We want to insert the text, again making it white, and this time it's going to say page 2. So grab our pointer, make sure it's relatively in the center, and then we've selected our text, copy, and paste in place. And the same with the down button, paste in place. Now we can see up, over, down, and there's our buttons. Double click on our stage to go back. Oh, excuse me. Insert a keyframe here again to signify the end of page 1. So now we need to insert some text so that I can see if I'm on page 1 or the home page, because even if I navigate at the moment, we're not going to be able to tell. There's no text on there. So we will insert a new layer. This layer we're going to call text 1. Okay, and text 1, I want to insert a keyframe at frame 10 because this is going to be part of page 1. So insert a keyframe, and my text 1 is going to be, I think we'll make that a bit bigger. So we'll make that 30 points, and there's no point making it white. We won't see it, so I'm going to make this purple. And it's going to say homepage. And that way people will know that when they have clicked the right button, we are on the home page, because as you can see, that is not on page 2, that's just on the home page. So we can test this now, and if we test it, we'll notice something a little bit bizarre. You can see that home page is flashing. The reason it's flashing is because the animation is looping, because we haven't put any stops in there to make it stop at page 1 or page 2. So that is what we will do next. Actually, first of all, I might just add another layer and call it text 2. And insert our keyframe in here. Insert a keyframe. And in here, sorry. So we'll insert our keyframe in here. And in here, I want to put text. And this is going to say page 2. So now if we run it, it'll flash between page 2 and home page, because there is nothing stopping it at either of those pieces of text. So let's now create our stops. I am actually, page 2, I'm actually going to insert a frame here. No, actually we'll do that later. So I'm going to insert a new layer, and this layer I'm going to call actions. Now this is where we're going to put our actions. So here I need to pick, actually I'm going to pick frame 9, and I'm going to insert a keyframe, and I'm going to insert a second keyframe. And we can see if we click on that one in the middle, that is on page 1. Then we're going to go to page 20, and we're going to do the same thing, insert a keyframe and insert a second keyframe. That way we've got one frame in the middle of those 2 frames. These are going to be our stops. So what we need to do is insert some actions. So right click in that frame there, go to actions, and we'll see that this little box appears up here. This is our code snippets, this button here, and that's what we need to create our navigation. So we go to action script, and we need timeline navigation. And what we want to do is we want to stop at this frame. So double click that and it will say stop. So we know that it is going to stop at that frame. Now we wanted to do exactly the same thing on frame 20, so we copy that, go to frame 20, that little frame in the middle, and paste. And there we are, we have our stop scripts in both of those. Now we know we've got stop scripts in both of those because you can see the little A. See the little white A? That signifies that there is a stop in each of those frames. So our next thing we need to do is navigation on these buttons. We can actually run this and test it so you can see. So Control Enter, and we'll see that now it's not running through. It's stopped on the home page. And yes, our navigation buttons are there and they're doing their thing, but they're still not navigating because we haven't given them any actions. So we'll give those navigation buttons some actions. So what we do is use our pointer, click on our button, and we're going to go up to Window, Code Snippets. So it's just a different way of getting to the code snippets. And this time we're going to go Action Script, Timeline Navigation, and what we want it to do is when we click it, go to the frame and stop. So double click that, and it's going to say to us the selected symbol requires an instance name. Animate will create an instance name before applying code sample. I'd actually like us to create our own instance names. So I'm going to hit cancel on that, and I'm going to close that. And you'll see here that as I've got this button selected, up here it says instance name. So we want to call this home button. Now, when we're giving an instance name, it doesn't like any gaps in the word. So you can see I haven't got a gap in between home and button there. So we've given that instance a name. Now I want to give this button an instance name as well. This one's going to be page 2. So now you can see our two buttons have their instance names, home button and page 2. So now we're going up to Window and go to Actions, not Actions, sorry. Go to Window and Code Snippets is what we want. And we go to Action Script, Timeline Navigation, click and go to Frame and Stop. So we double click that. Now as a default, it's telling us click and go to frame 5 and stop. We don't want to go to frame 5. We actually want to go to frame 9. So click and go to frame 9 and stop. So then we need to do the same with this one. So we click here. We want to click and go to frame, and this time we're going to frame 20 and stop. So this one and this one. So if we close those, let's see if it worked. Aha, didn't work. We will do it again. So, home button, Window, Code Snippets, Action Script, Timeline Navigation, click and go to frame and stop. Again, click and go to frame 9 and stop. And that's what we want you to do. Okay, now this one, Window, Code Snippets, Action Script, Timeline Navigation, click and go to frame and stop, double click it, double click it, there we go, and again, frame 5, we don't want to stop there, we want it to stop on frame 20. Okay, all good. So now let's test it again. So now when we run it, we're over our home and we can see that it's changing. Let's see if we can go to page 2. Aha, now we've navigated to page 2. Back to page 1, back to home page, up to page 2. So there we are. Now we have our navigation. So that's just some simple navigation that you can do in Animate CC. Hope this helps you with your kids' interface. Can't wait to see what you guys create. Have fun.